It's time again for the Curator's Corner. I'm joined in studio by Jim Sapika, Director of the National Firearms Museum, which is located at NRA headquarters.
Hold on, sorry, false start. Now we're okay.
Okay. It's time again for the Curator's Corner. I'm joined in studio by Jim Sapika. He is the Director of the National Firearms Museum, which is located at NRA headquarters in Fairfax, Virginia. Jim, thank you for coming out to NRA News Studios and bringing once again a gaggle, if you will, Jim, of great classic treasures here, firearms. So this week we've been sort of focusing on different topics, which I love. And this week we're going to talk about Colt Percussion Revolvers, but also about cartridge size, a little bit about the evolution of the .40 caliber. So get us started.
Exactly. Well, we'll go right into the evolution of the Colt revolver. Of course, we talked earlier about the little Patterson Colt that was a small, somewhat fragile revolver, not much of a success. 10 years after that was introduced in the late 1840s, Colt came back with their winner, and that was the Walker. It was a big, heavy 44 caliber percussion revolver. It was sturdy, it was powerful. It was the most powerful handgun up until the introduction of the .357 Magnum, just to give you an idea of the type of power it packed.
That's a long run.
It was refined and modified a little bit into their big Dragoon model, and this is the 6-shot 44 caliber Colt Dragoon. It is a big, heavy handgun.
It looks heavy.
It's not a belt gun; it's a horse pistol. You'd put a pair of holsters over the front of your saddle, and you'd carry them on your horse. Your pants will fall down if you try and carry that in a holster. Big, heavy revolver. No question that it's effective, but just not a handy size to carry on the person. In 1851, Colt introduced a pretty good defense and combat handgun. This is their 1851 Navy model. It's a much handier size. This gun can be conveniently worn on a belt holster. It's a 6-shot. It's a 36 caliber. It just doesn't pack the punch of the 44.
No.
But you can see the difference in size and see that there's quite a bit of difference. What Colt wanted to do was they wanted to pack more power in a more convenient size, and they worked a number of different ways to do that. At the beginning of the Civil War, they came up with a good solution to that problem and introduced the model 1860 Army. Now this is a 44 caliber 6-shot, same caliber as the big Dragoon model. A little less powder fits in it, but still a very effective round for the era. And what they did, they went with a rebated cylinder. You've got the larger cylinder diameter in the front of the frame, but you can see that the rear of the cylinder is smaller in diameter.
Yeah, so it sort of draws down there.
Exactly, and that allowed them to get the larger caliber into a more compact size. And it was a very satisfactory solution, probably the most predominant Union firearm of the Civil War. Between these two steps, before they came up with the rebated cylinder, they experimented with something we're familiar with from more recently. In the 1980s, of course, there was the controversy between the 9mm or 38 caliber round and the bigger bore 44-45 caliber rounds, and trying to find the ideal police or personal defense cartridge. Of course, the theory being that the larger and heavier the bullet, the more effective the round would be.
Stopping power.
That's right. In the right around 1990, Smith & Wesson introduced the 40 S&W, a compromise between the 36-38 size and the 44-45 size, kind of splitting the difference. And it's been widely accepted as a police and personal defense round. Colt had the same idea many, many years before. In late 1850s, trying to improve on the 36 caliber 51 Navy, Colt came up with a 40 caliber Navy model. This was probably made 1858 or 1859. They only made 3 of these that we know of. Serial number 1, 2, and 3. This is serial number 1. It was in the Colt factory collection up to a couple decades ago. And it is, instead of the 36 caliber, it's the same size revolver, but gone up to a full 40 caliber.
Now how does now I know the National Firearms Museum, being the premier firearms museum, how do you manage to finagle #1 from their collection into yours?
Well, it came out into the public market
Wow.
a couple decades ago, so it's
That
been
is great,
it's been out.
and now it's where it belongs.
Yeah, yeah, and you can see another interesting thing to compare. This gun is set in the factory all its life, and then in a couple of private collections.
Yeah.
These guns have seen serious use. You can see the difference in the
Beautiful.
finish of
Yeah.
these. This is what these guns originally looked like. You can see the deep lustrous Colt blue on them.
Yeah.
And these guns show their use and their history and their wear and tear. But when they came out of the Colt factory,
Yeah,
that's what they looked like.
Even down to the finish on the stock and everything. It's just-
Exactly.
yeah, it's a beautiful
Exactly.
firearm. So functional, but so didn't catch on, I guess.
Didn't catch on. Took them another 140
say-
years or so. But
Talk
the
about-
idea was good. They were onto something.
Jim, talk about being ahead of your time.
That's right.
120,
That's
30
right.
years, but here it is, a 40 caliber, wildly popular with military and police and everything right now. So pretty neat. So the Colt Percussion Revolver in 40 caliber. Jim, tell us how we can see more of these type of revolvers and the thousands of others at the National Firearms Museum.
These and about 2,500 more are on display at the NRA National Firearms Museum at NRA headquarters in Fairfax, Virginia. We're on Maples Mill Road there, easily accessed right off the highway. And we're open every day of the week. We're closed only on major holidays. We open at 9:30 in the morning, close at 5 o'clock most nights, and stay open late until 7 on Saturday nights. Admission's always free. We love to have folks come by. We've got a great display of American firearms heritage.
Beautiful. And I tell people when you go out to the National Firearms Museum, the greatest thing to do, it's at NRA headquarters, is you get in the morning, or you do some shooting at the NRA's range down there,
Exactly.
then you go to the museum, you have, I mean, what a better day you can spend.
Get
when you're in
lunch at the
nation's
NRA
capital.
cafe
Yeah,
while you're there.
It's great.
It's a great day.
I've done it. It's a great way to spend some time, especially if we're heading into spring and summertime coming on. You're coming into the area, you've got to stop by the Firearms Museum. Jim, thank you very much for coming out again and bringing some wonderful treasures here to share with our audience here on NRAnews.com and Sirius Satellite Radio. Jim Sapika, Director of the National Firearms Museum out at Fairfax at the NRA headquarters. Thanks for being here for Curator's Corner.
Always a pleasure, John.